Good morning, one and all. Welcome to the lecture on Analog and Digital Communication course on the topic Line Codes and Pulse Shaping. Myself, Dr. Archana K. Bange, working as Senior Assistant Professor in EC Department, VNR VJIT. So the contents will go as the line codes, pulse width and polarity, power spectral density, intersymbol interference, pulse shaping to reduce ISI, and embracing ISI. Coming to the different line code schemes which are used to transmit the digital bits ones and zeros that in the same form as we have generated from analog to digital communication without any modulation, and this is called as baseband transmission. There are different ways in which the bits ones and zeros can be transmitted on the channel, and the channel we are assuming it to be a wired channel. So the different line code schemes which indicates how these bits ones and zeros will be transmitted on the channel are indicated by following different types. So I can use on-off return to zero, I can use polar return to zero, I can use bipolar, or it's also called as alternate mark inversion return to zero. And the other options to transmit the digital bits in the baseband form are on-off signaling, which is now non-return to zero form. And the other form of non-return to zero is using the polar formatting. Coming to the first one, that is on-off return to zero, and assuming that the bits I want to transmit are in the sequence 111 00 10 11 010. So using on-off return to zero, I am going to use a return to zero pulse. Indicates that half the duration of the pulse is on, and half the duration of the pulse is off. And for one, I am using a positive polarity pulse. For one, I am using a positive polarity pulse. And for one, I am transmitting using the positive polarity 1, which is on for half the duration and off for the other half duration. Whereas for 0, we are transmitting holding the line at 0 volts. Same follows for the other bits. Now, coming to the polar return to zero form, we shall use to transmit a positive polarity pulse that will remain at positive 1 for half the duration and 0 for other half duration. Whereas to transmit 0, we are going to use a negative pulse that remains at negative level for half the duration and for 0 for another half duration. So we can see that polar RZ will have positive polarity pulses and negative polarity pulses, but they return to 0 for half the duration of the pulse there. Now, coming to the other form, which is bipolar alternate mark inversion, but RZ form. What we do in this form is we reserve positive polarity and negative polarity pulses both for transmitting 1, whereas we transmit 0 volt when we want to transmit the bit 0. So you can see that when I am intent to transmit 1, I am transmitting a positive polarity pulse, but that the pulse remains half high for half the duration and 0 for other half duration. And same again, if I want to transmit 1, but I am using a negative polarity pulse, which is again maintained at negative value for half duration and 0 for other half duration. Whereas to transmit 0, we are transmitting 0 volts on the line there. So this is also called as alternate mark inversion, because whenever we are transmitting ones, we are using alternative positive and negative pulses. Now, the first three what we have discussed are return to zero format, whereas now coming to non-return to zero format, which can again fall into the category of on-off, which you also called as unipolar format, or it can fall into the polar format. So for on-off return to zero, as you can see, as opposite to the return to 0. In non-return to 0, the pulse value is maintained at high position for the entire duration of the pulse. So it will not return to 0 during its pulse duration. So whenever you are transmitting 1 1 1, the line is held at high value, and because it is on off or unipolar, for 0 we prefer to transmit 0 volt on the line there. So as compared to RZ, NRZ does not return to 0 for half the duration of the pulse. It maintains at the higher value for the entire duration of the pulse there. Now again, talking about one more form which is non-return to 0, but we are using a polar formatting. So in this case, we represent 1 with a positive high value, whereas 0 is represented with a pulse of negative amplitude. So whenever we are transmitting 1, we are transmitting a pulse that remains at high for its entire duration, and for 0, we transmit using the negative value which remains at negative value for the entire duration of the pulse. So these are the different line code schemes that we used to transmit the digital signal in its very form, which we call it as baseband transmission. Now, what features are we looking when we use different line coding formats? So different line coding formats will give rise to different features. For example, if you are looking for transmitting the digital pulses using minimum bandwidth, then the line coding format that we prefer is non-return to 0, which offers the minimum channel bandwidth to be utilized. Whereas if the interest is to have a easy clock recovery or good synchronization to be maintained at the receiver, then the return to 0 formatting is preferred. And sometimes if we are wishing to transmit the digital pulses, binary pulses with no DC component because the channel does not support the DC value, then it is preferable to transmit the pulses in the bipolar form. So these are some of the features we are looking into different line coding formats. Now, the most important thing is to compute the power spectral density function of the different line code schemes so that we are able to understand how much channel bandwidth is consumed by each of the line coding format. So in order to compute the power spectral density function, let us look at this figure. So we see that the power spectral density of the line code will depend upon the shape of the pulses that correspond to the digital values that we are intended to transmit, which is 1 or 0. Assume that the pulses PT are amplitude modulated, and this is the shape of the pulse, an arbitrary pulse P of t, which is used to transmit our baseband values 0s and 1s. So if you look for a random transmission on the channel, the transmitted signal y of t could look something like this. I am using the pulse P of t to transmit 1 as well as to transmit 0. So the values or the amplitudes are changed depending upon what you are transmitting. So you can see that if I have to represent the transmission of these values, 1s and 0s, in the form of an equation, so transmitted signal can look like the sum of weighted shifted pulses, wherein the y of t signal, transmitted signal, represented as a summation of ak p of t minus ktb, where the pulses can start from minus infinity to plus infinity, and the value of each pulse can be modified by AK, that is our digital signal 1 or 0 that we are intended to transmit, and at different locations wherein we represented as T equal to KTB, where I am assuming TB to be the spacing between the pulses. Now, for example, in case you have decided to transmit the pulses with width TB, but for some reason, if the pulse width goes beyond TB, there is a chance that one pulse may interfere with the next pulse. This will lead to a problem called as inter-symbol interference, which we will look into our next video. Now, how do we compute the PSD? PSD will depend upon what is the pulse I am going to use, what is its shape, what is the rate at which I am transmitting my digital signal, and what values are being transmitted, which is represented as AK. Now let us simplify analyzing this by representing our y of t as an impulse train convolved with p of t. So this is my signal that I am transmitting, which is represented as AK P of t minus KTB. This one is coming from wherever I am transmitting my digital values, I am representing that with an impulse, and because on the line you are supposed to transmit using a pulse shape P of t, it can be assumed to be a convolution operation between these two signals. So this is the signal that I am intending to transmit, and this is the pulse that I am using to transmit these signals. So when there is a convolution operation in the time domain, so I can represent in the frequency domain the output y of f simply as a product of the Fourier transform of the pulse that I am going to use, which is P of t leading to P of f, and my signal, digital signal, that is random sequence, x of t represented as x of f. And our outcoming PSD value for the transmitted sequence y of t will be represented as the power spectral density function of the output signal, which is Sy of f, which is nothing but magnitude squared function of the P of f with the power spectral density function of the input signal. Now, definitely the P of f will depend upon what is the pulse or the shape that we are choosing to transmit, which is definitely independent of the digital values that we are trying to transmit. Now, the power spectral density function of the output will increase linearly with the rate 1 by TB, that is the rate at which we are transmitting the signal, and it will also depend upon the distribution of the digital values, ones and zeros. In case all values are 1, wherein AK is equal to 1, we are continuously transmitting ones, then it will lead to a narrower PSD, power spectral density function. Now, let us try to represent the general form of this power spectral density function. As we have already told, the output power spectral density function is a product of magnitude squared function of the pulse Fourier transform P of f and the power spectral density function of the input signal. As input signal is a digital sequence, random sequence, this can be very well represented as a random variable. And these random values of ones and zeros are thought to be forming a autocorrelation function. Hence, the input power spectral density can be represented as simply the Fourier transform of the autocorrelation function of the input sequence, which is represented as the Fourier transform of the autocorrelation function R of n in the power spectral density of the input. So now our final power spectral density function will be, as usual, the magnitude squared function of the pulse P of f multiplied by Sx of f has been replaced with the Fourier transform of the power spectral density function. Now this is our general equation which will help us to compute the output power spectral density for various line code schemes there. Now the power spectral density function Sy of f can be altered. I mean, we can limit the bandwidth of the transmitted signal by choosing or modifying our P of f, or we can modify it by using the x of t. So we will see both the cases how the output PSD is modified by varying the pulse shape or by modifying our autocorrelation function of the input random sequence. Now coming to modifying our pulse P of f, okay, we have the choices of using the pulses represented by RZ form, that is return to 0 or non-return to 0. In case I am choosing non-return to zero pulse form, which is the pulse is high for 100% duration of the time, we can represent this with a rectangular pulse that exists from minus TB to TB, and which is represented by a rectangular gate function of rect of t by TB. And as we apply the Fourier transform, we get the P of f, that is the Fourier transform of P of t, as a sinc function that is extending from the minus fb to fb, where fb is 1 by TB, which is the bandwidth required for transmitting the signal, and the signal again goes to 0 at 2fb and minus 2fb. So if we are, because the final pulse spectral density will depend upon the magnitude squared function of the pulse function P of f, we get this as TB square sinc square pi TB f. Now coming to, if the pulse that we are choosing is a return to zero form, then the rectangular function or the gated function will exist for half the duration, and half the duration the pulse is off. So these are the modified equations of the time domain signal P of t, and if we compute the corresponding Fourier transform, it will lead to this equation. Because we are interested in the magnitude squared function, we can compute the magnitude squared function, and this is how the return to zero pulse looks in the time domain. And in the Fourier domain, you can see that it is occupying the double the bandwidth as required, that by the non-return to zero pulse. So the difference is clearly evident. Non-return to zero requires less bandwidth as compared to the return to zero pulse, which requires double the bandwidth. Now that was modifying our pulse P of t using non-return to zero or return to zero format. We can also shape the bandwidth of the output signal by changing our value of x of t. For example, if I am referring to a polar signaling format, as we all know, in polar signaling, for 1 we transmit as positive pulse, for 0 we transmit as negative pulse. And for some sequence, the signal will look like this on the channel. Now you can see that the output power spectral density function will be computed using our earlier formula, and it is the autocorrelation function R naught term only is present finally, which is leading to the final value as magnitude squared function of P of f by TB. So you can see that for polar signaling, this is the complete output of the signal Sy of f. So it means that the PSD of polar signaling depends only on the spectrum of P of t, because yes, x of f is anyhow becoming 1. Same way, if I am trying to look at the different formatting, for example, bipolar signaling, you all know that we transmit once as alternating plus and minus P of t, whereas 0 is transmitted as 0. So if I again take an example, the bit sequence, this is our transmitting bit sequence. So in bipolar, we are having either RZ form or NRZ form, and already as we have discussed, this is how the transmission for RZ will look like, and this is how the transmission for NRZ looks like this. And now if you are intended to compute your power spectral density for the full width, that is non-return to zero pulse, so after computation, the output power spectral density will be simply a sinc square function multiplied by a sine square function. Whereas same thing if you are going to compute for the RZ pulses, the power spectral density function will still be sinc square function multiplied by sine square function with a little difference in some values. So now if you are going to check the PSD of the RZ or NRZ form will depend on PF, but it will decay more rapidly due to the sine square term, which is possible only in the bipolar form. This is another example wherein the x of t is transmitted by using the split phase form, or we also call it as Manchester form, wherein in one, if you want to transmit one, we are transmitting both positive and negative transitions. So for such a transmission format, if you are going to compute the PSD, we are getting the value as magnitude squared function P of f into 1 by TB. So now, coming to our conclusion, by looking at different line code formats, and because we are interested in computing the bandwidth for different line code formats, we could see that for different forms, like if we are talking about bipolar form, we are getting a Fourier domain, or the bandwidth requirement will go up to FB, and the value is 0 at f equal to 0, indicating no presence of DC component. Whereas if you are talking about polar formatting, if you transmit the signaling using polar formatting, the bandwidth requirement is beyond FB, more than what you require for the bipolar transmission. And one more distinction is the polar format has a DC component present because the value is non-zero at f equal to 0. And if you see the split phase or the biphase Manchester form, again it requires more bandwidth. So the option to use different line code formats will depend upon how much bandwidth we can spare for transmitting the line code formats. So we end our discussion on line codes here. In the next video, we will be talking about the problem of ISI and how pulse shaping will reduce ISI. Thank you.
Like, share, comment, and subscribe VNR Digital Learning Resource YouTube channel.